welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so excited we're spending this time here today. We have an amazing show lined up. Our first guest is none other than Jody Miller, and she's here today to talk to us about her new book, From Drift to Shift. Now, Jody is CEO of C2C Executive Search and Strategic Management. She's a career and life coach and has helped thousands of people find true meaning in their work and lives. So let's welcome to the show, Jody.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. Now, I have to ask you, and I'm just curious as I'll get out, what inspired you to write this book?
You know, it's a really good question because this has been on my mind and sort of in my heart for a long time. I've been an executive search CEO of an executive search firm and a strategic consultant for companies for 13 years now. Before that, I was in television and investment banking. But I'd written 2 books about finding your dream job. And what I have found after helping thousands and thousands of people find their dream job is that there was a lot more going on deeper than just people trying to fill in their background into a square background into a square peg. I mean, there are a lot of different depths to people, from Harvard all the way to non-college grads. I mean, across the board, there were some similarities. So I wanted to dig deeper into what really gave people meaning, and I wanted people to find meaning and happiness. And so it kept bothering me that people would just take jobs because they just felt like they needed the paycheck, or, I fit, so, this is what it's expected of me. And I just wanted to dig deeper and present some stories of some amazing people that can give the general public the confidence to make a shift if they're not happy with what they're doing and they're not doing what they love. So it's sort of a personal mission for me, and I'm now speaking all over the world about it and writing about it, and I just want people to find that right fit and find happiness and meaning, and that's kind of where it all came from.
Well, I'd have to agree with you, and I think this book couldn't come any sooner. I mean, when I used to work in insurance, one of the questions when I'd sit in front of huge groups of employees, I'd ask them how many people love their job or even like their job. And most of the people I would meet with told me they hated their job. And I found that to be really sad because it's like, gosh, you're spending all of your time here. How could you hate what you're doing?
Well, think about it, Marianne. I mean, we spend more time at work than we do with the ones we love. Mm-hmm. And there's a recent Gallup poll. I'm always looking at Gallup and Gardner research, and that said this is only 37% of people are engaged. That's not good. I think there's a big shift coming. I'm starting to write more about this as an extension of From Drift to Shift, about the millennials versus the baby boomers, and I'm discovering some interesting learning experiences there. So that those 2 largest working generations ever in the history of our country can find ways to basically work together. And a lot of that's sort of coming out of From Drift to Shift and extending that idea forward for the next generations too.
Yeah, I actually think that's some pretty good research to be accumulated there, especially because when we look at the millennials, they are kind of redefining the workplace as
yes.
The culture, all of that. So I'm sure that's going to be a very interesting book, and I look forward to reading that too.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so what are some of the ways that people can, what are some of the questions they can start asking themselves to start making that transition, that shift into happiness?
Sure. Well, one of the things I do with people, and like I say, I've been doing this for so long, it's becoming second nature, and it's really becoming a fun exercise, is that I get people to go back to when they were kids and start to think about the things that they love to do, or hobbies they had, or things they felt they were good at, or moments when they felt they were inspired. So, for example, if I look at my life, and you might think about this for your life, I loved to write as a kid. I mean, I wrote poems, I collected quotes, I wrote short stories, and I still have the hardcover notebook that I've had since 5th grade. And I found that I also like to put on plays and put on sort of events when I was a kid and organize things. And so I ended up, becoming a writer and becoming sort of a person who helps other people organize their lives and find happiness in their lives. And I did a lot of personal digging, and I ended up following the path to what I'm really meant to do and what I really love. And I think we all know already. So this is just one way that I get people to start thinking about it. And if you think about it, I mean, what comes up for you? I don't want to put you on the spot, but does anything come up for you? I mean, you're a coach and you do these great radio shows and you're inspirational. I mean, is there something in your childhood that you could almost go back to and say, wow, I can sort of see why I ended up where I am?
Well, I definitely was an entrepreneur starting off as a kid. I mean, because I was always looking for out-of-the-box ways to not only create a business, but later on when I was in high school, like I wanted to start a women's group. So I went ahead and found the teacher that would be able to manage it, and because you had to have a teacher to do that, and then brought together women, young ladies who were looking to make an impact in their community. So
wow. That's great.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of tickled me pink to find out it was still there. So I was pretty happy about that.
That's so awesome. And it's just these sorts of things. And so I think that's a good way to start. And then what I do is I have people start to do some tests. So there are a number of, like, Psychology Today has a test, Myers-Briggs has a test. I'm okay with that test. It's more of a personality test if you're an introvert or an extrovert. But there are a few other tests that people can take online. They can go to my website, jodybmiller.com, and I have some of the data there. And that gives you more of an idea of what kind of personality and what kind of job might fit as well, once you've sort of done this analysis of how you grew up and what you love. And then I have them start to research companies, and I give lots of examples of companies, and then we get into specifics on types of jobs in those companies. So I really walk people through each step of how they get there, all the way to who they should contact at the companies, how they contact them, and I give people small steps. I'm a big believer in small steps. Don't look at finding your happiness or finding your dream job as this overwhelming, you might not know, you might not think I do think everyone really does know, but if you walk through all these steps with little rewards along the way, you do get there.
Yeah. Well, and so let's say that you're working with somebody, and at this current time in their life, they're in a position where maybe making a transition in their work really isn't a feasible thing. Maybe they have a retirement that they're waiting to get with this company, whatever the deal is. How can they make their life more fulfilling and meaningful while they're at this job?
Yeah, I get that question a lot from people who are in those positions. And they say, Jody, I'm mired in debt. I've got 3 kids in private school. I have a second home, or maybe it's just the fact that I need to make ends meet and I can't make a shift even though I'd like to. Mm-hmm. So we go through a process where we'll start with, hey, let's just take life as it is now and accept the fact that that's okay. So don't be beating yourself up that you're not where you dream to be yet. It's okay that you are where you are, because we sort of all are where we're supposed to be at any point in time. And sometimes it takes getting through shifts in our lives to look back and say, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense that I went from there to here. But so let's say you're in that position, as you said, I give them small tools to help it be more enjoyable, so that when they get up or they go to bed Sunday night, they're not thinking, I'm already thinking about Friday. You want them to be thinking, thank God it's Monday. So we've got to get them to the point where at least they're getting up and enjoying going to work. So some of the ways to do that is if you have a job, let's say, where your boss is kind of a micromanager, and believe me, there are a lot of those out there. I'm sure you've heard of them too. Or high expectations and demands. You need to learn to set some boundaries. And boundaries might be as simple as putting in the signature of your email something along the lines of, in order to be even more productive for this great company, I will not be answering emails after 6 p.m. Thank you for your support. So there are different ways you can be positive and start to set boundaries, because I don't know how you feel about this, Marianne, but a lot of the research I've done is that, technology is a great thing, but sometimes it's not so great a thing, because not only can people be in a job that they're not happy with, they feel they have to stay, the demands on them are much more and for longer spans of time during their day because of technology.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm a real big proponent on boundaries. I've done it the other way with no boundaries and got completely burnt out after being 8 years in insurance, because they expect you to be on all the time. There's a crazy expectation, especially as a high-performing manager. And so when I shifted and started doing the work I'm doing now, it was like, it's setting those boundaries, going, okay, well, the evenings are mine, and you know what? I deserve the weekends off. So
yeah, and the other thing is, you're saying exactly where I want to go next. Is good positive self-talk can help get you there too. So on your drive to the office, let's say you hate your job, you're saying, today's okay. I'm doing okay. I'm getting better at this. I'm going to look for something good today at the office. I'm going to smile more. I'm going to engage a colleague that kind of bugs me and just say, hey, I'm getting a cup of coffee. Can I get you one? And I don't want to use the cliche term, fake it till you make it, but in a way you want to just talk yourself into a better place. So instead of walking in and saying, God, I hate this place. I hate this job. I can't wait to get out. When do I get out? You can say, I'm going to find one good thing today. One good thing at this office, and I promise you, you're almost like you're what you're putting out there becomes a better vibe, and better things will start to come toward you and into your experience, because you're putting out a more positive vibe instead of slumping your shoulders and looking down and making it obvious you're not happy going into the office. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, another thing I tell people that I really, really like, and some people get scared because, again, I want to go back to this, micromanager bully boss that a lot of people do experience. I tell them, set up a meeting with your boss. If you have to do it through their assistant or not, try and just go have a visit. No agenda, no complaints at all. Instead, you're going in there to kind of get to know them, talk about their vision for the team or their vision for the team or the division or whatever the group is that you're in, and start to ask them questions about them. Why are they there? What do they love? And what kind of pressures do they have? And how can you help? And I promise you, this works every time. You will come out of that meeting with a better feeling towards your boss. You'll feel like you matter more, and you may end up having an ally and a mentor. And if you have that in your company, your attitude does start to change. You feel like, hey, I've got someone who has my back here, and I think I can make this work, and I'm getting better at this, and today was a good day, and things just start to fall together more, and you may end up never making a shift. You may find this is okay. This is actually pretty good. I've set boundaries. I've made an ally with my boss. I'm engaging my colleagues. I'm practicing more positive self-talk. I'm okay. And so these are just small strategies. And as I said before, small steps. You should do it in small steps that can make you tolerate and maybe even enjoy where you're at least for the time being, until you're ready to make the shift, or you may not ever make the shift.
Well, let's say you're working with somebody who does have that flexibility. Maybe they're new to the working environment, or they just have great flexibility where they can start making shifts towards something that really is more fulfilling for them. So it's kind of a two-part question here. So like, one, how would they discover what that fulfilling position is for them, that new work that they're going to do? And then number two, what are some of the things that they can do to start making that shift?
Sure. So, to go back to discover, I still go back to kind of thinking back to when you're young and doing some research and some keyword research on the different kinds of jobs that might fit. And you'll probably have that aha moment where you'll say, oh my gosh, this would be ideal. Or you may already know. So let's say it's a hobby and you kind of maybe want to get into that more. Like you paint. Let's say you paint. And you want to start doing that more, but your work's taking over. So you can take those small little steps and go take a painting class, or go volunteer on a Sunday half day to be, an assistant docent at a museum. So you can learn to appreciate the paintings and all the painters. Or you take, I'm a big fan of an online service called Get Abstract. And so it's best-selling books that they narrow down to just main points, so you can learn more quickly about sort of like what's going on in the world, and strategies for improving your work life, your productivity, your happiness, all sorts of topics, across the board. But they're very narrowed down to where you can just get some really good takeaway points that might inspire you. So I always tell people to browse that. I tell people to watch TED Talks, because you want to feel inspired, and something might inspire you in the learning phase. So a TED Talk, I like Get Abstract. Maybe you have some social news media sites that you like. I tend to tell people to get away from negative news and go more toward inspirational things that they can look at, dig deep inside, and then start to make little steps toward, maybe it's your hobby, maybe it's that secret interest. And if you can't actually physically do something like go volunteer at a museum, or take a painting class, or take a calligraphy class, then start to learn a little more about it. And you'll feel like you're making progress. And if you open your heart and your mind to it, good things start to come across your path. And then if you start to pay attention to that, it all almost seems kind of wild. It all starts to fall into place. And one thing leads to another, and you go, wow, I'm going to pay attention to that, and that feels good, so I'm going to follow that. And I'm a big one on following your feelings. People say, act first. I think you need to feel it first. And so act on those inspirations, but make sure that you're inspired and not, obligated.
Yeah, because then that starts breeding this feeling like, I got to go do this.
Right. And that's why you don't want to take on too much, because you might say, okay, I want to, be a painter. I'm just using that example. So I'm going to go take 5 painting courses, and I'm going to whip through them in a month, or I'm going to learn to sail in 1 month, and then I'm going to book a trip to the BVIs. I mean, that's just too much. Yeah. And you might get overwhelmed and not follow through. So small steps, inspiration, let inspiration guide you, and go through some of these exercises I mentioned earlier, and just take little steps, and your attitude will even change when you're at your current role. Even if you need to stay there for 6 months or a year or whatever, you'll start to feel inspired, and each little time you make a step, you're like, wow, I'm kind of making progress here. I'm getting toward what I really love. This is actually kind of cool. I'm doing well. And then that positive self-talk comes in again.
Well, let's say you come across somebody who's doing that, but they just don't feel that inspiration. They're just like, oh, I can't dig this out for anything. I mean,
yeah. Well, then I would tell them, I know this sounds a little new agey, but I would say spend 10 minutes, get up 10 minutes earlier, and just meditate. Or if you can't clear your mind and the thoughts are crazy, appreciate. And my routine in the morning is I get up about 15 minutes early, and I sit there with a cup of coffee, because I enjoy coffee. And I put the little frothy milk on it because I like it that way. So I look out of my window and I appreciate the trees and the birds and my little puppy and my kids. And I just sort of go through an appreciation of things that I really care about. And it just kind of inspires me to have a good attitude for the day. And I start my day very positive with just a really good feeling. I feel good about me. And so when I walk out into the world, I can't explain it, Marianne. Good stuff happens for me all the time.
You gotta love that, don't you?
I love it. But if you don't start your day out that way, you start out, oh my God, I'm late. Oh my God, I gotta hurry. I hate my job. Good things are not going to happen that day. And that's okay too, if you recognize it and you're like, oh boy, here I go, going down negative town, going down the rabbit hole. hey, I just recognize I'm going down the rabbit hole. That's an improvement that I'm recognizing it.
Well, and it's those little things that make that big shift, because I think all of us can get into this negative thought process where we're just like,
Yes.
ooh, I don't like this, or that's not the coolest thing. And so it's nice to know that we can do other things that will shift that.
Yeah, even acknowledging it. So people get down on themselves and beat themselves up because they haven't gotten there yet, wherever there is for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you can even acknowledge that, hey, I'm really kind of negative right now. Maybe I can just find a feeling or an experience or go do something, go take a walk that's going to make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
And just that moment of taking a break, whether you meditate, whether you just go get some tea that you enjoy, or whether you take a walk outside, nature's a big, big plus for inspiration and feeling good. And your feeling goes from negative to relief, or life isn't so bad. That's a step in the right direction. So it doesn't have to be, oh my God, I'm so excited, I'm just jazzed. It doesn't have to be over the top, but each little step in the right direction. I used to listen to this author, Anne Lamott, because I raised my kids in Marin, and she lives in Marin, and she's written a bunch of sort of like neat little messages, self-help books, and done really well. And one time I listened to her at a bookstore, and she said, when I start a book, it's a blank page. I freak out. I don't know what I'm going to write. No one's going to want to read my stuff. She goes, I just start beating myself up. And she's like, and I'm a successful author. And so she said she has this 1-inch frame on her desk, and I think there's a picture of her son in it. And she says, I just look at that 1-inch frame and I say, inch by inch, I'm going to write one line. And before she knows it, she has another book. So even the most successful people in the world go through this.
Well, I think that's kind of encouraging for people to know, because I think most people think, well, even the successful people don't have anything like this going on. It's just me.
Yeah, and if they read my book, From Drift to Shift, how change can bring true meaning and happiness to your work and life, I have stories of some very successful people. I purposely didn't go for the big names, which I could have, because through my career I've met some pretty prominent Forbes 100, amazing people and big celebrities. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted people that were from all walks of life, some very successful CEOs and venture capitalists, but some everyday people that have found a shift in their life. So like moms can relate to, for example. And I wanted people that the reader could say, wow, I can do that. They're not out of my reach. Oh my gosh, they felt that way. They did that. And you're almost feeling like, wow, I identify with them, and I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives people courage and hope and inspiration without being out of reach.
Yeah. And they're able to not be so hard on themselves when they're making those shifts.
Yes. Gosh, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, look, if you didn't get that one position, that wasn't really the position you're meant to have. It's okay. What you learn from that is going to get you closer to what you're really meant to do. And I really do think, Marianne, we're all where we're supposed to be. And as you get those inspirations, you do follow them. And when you follow them in baby steps, little steps, more and more good things happen. And, life is not from here to there. If it's from here to there instantly, why even do it? Life is a journey, and let's try and enjoy the journey, even if some of the steps are tough. Acknowledge it, even acknowledging, hey, this is a tough time for me, but the fact that I'm realizing it, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm just going to be in this moment and look for something good today. And that's all I'm going to do today. And the next day gets better and better, and you eventually can make that shift into your dream job.
Well, and I think that just gives a lot of people some really great encouragement in making these shifts. Now, let's say you have somebody and they're like, yeah, that's all sounds good, but I still need help. Do you work with people personally?
Well, I do, and I have for 13 years. And there's so many people I can't, how your time is, right? I can't help everyone one-on-one, because it's a lot to really help people get there through all these phases, but it's a fun process and I love it. So I've actually just started developing my first course that takes my 13 years in, life coaching, career coaching, executive recruiting, corporate cultures, and I'm creating sort of follow along your own pace courses that incorporate all these things I'm talking about. And I'm going to probably launch my first one in the next few weeks. And then I can help thousands and thousands and thousands more people versus, taking the one-on-one. And that I'm really excited about because, again, it's an extension of the book. It's an extension of, I've been in the corporate world for over 30 years. And I've been in television, investment banking, strategic consulting, and now doing what I'm doing now, which is my favorite thing, and writing about it and talking about it. So now I can actually really hone it in and teach people so that many, many more people around the world can benefit versus me just being able to help, one by one by one.
Yeah, I get that because at some point our time just kind of takes a life of its own.
Yeah, it does. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got to do laundry. You're like, no, that fits in too. You got to do that. You probably do that at midnight.
Midnight on the weekends, and for sure.
Exactly. You have to make it all work.
Well, and so I know we've got a little bit more time here. So what are some of the shifts that our listeners can make, let's say like today, if they're like, well, I want to start putting something into practice right now. What's like one or two things they can start doing?
Well, first of all, I think they need to think about embracing change. So if there's a change in their day today, or they've gone through a change that they're not quite sure about, it's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up. Accept you as you are now. And if there's change, embrace it instead of fighting it. So that's one way you will start to shift your thoughts and your emotions toward a better place. The other thing is that you have to just know happiness is what we're all after. Happiness is really the end goal. So find things today that make you feel happy. And I know that sounds simple, but it's hard for a lot of people to find something happy that day. And it might just be petting your pet, or watching a bird, or going out for a walk, or having a cup of coffee, but just find something that makes you feel happy, because that again starts to shift your attitude. And as you're shifting to a better emotional place, more things come into your experience. And then finally, you need to tell yourself you matter. A lot of people in their work and in their lives, unfortunately, don't feel like they matter. They feel like they're on an island all alone. So you have to know you matter. And one way to know you matter is to seek out friends or groups that you can be part of, or organizations or associations that are like-minded with something that interests you. And you will see there very quickly how much you matter. So those are three things I get people thinking about, and they can do today. So if there's any change going on in your life, it may be a relative who's giving you a hard time, embrace that and say it's okay. And don't beat yourself up about change that may kind of scare you. And then know that happiness is your end goal. So start to look for something that makes you feel good today. And then finally, know that you matter and reach out more to groups or a friend that validate that for you.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. And then I've helped so many people with this, Marianne, and I practice it myself all the time, because we all have ebbs and flows. No one is positive all the time. That's just silly to think that. And even when you're in the ebb instead of the flow, it's okay. And that's where you have to just say, it's okay. It's okay. I'm here right now, and I'm moving in the right direction, and things are getting better, and it's a beautiful day. And it may be only as simple as saying, hey, the sun's out and I'm enjoying the sun on my face. That may be all you get through that day. But the more you practice this, the more you practice these ideas, the more you will shift your attitude and your emotional state and your feelings of self-esteem, which will guide you and open up more doors for you toward making the shift into what it is that you love.
I think that's just beautiful advice. So, Jody, and I know you mentioned it earlier, where can our listeners connect with you to be part of your community? I know I'm following you on social media. We want to make sure everyone else can as well and connect with you.
Sure, absolutely. On Twitter, I'm at JB Miller Author. If you go to my website, my author website, which is Jody with a Y, jodybmiller.com, you can follow my blogs. I write for all sorts of magazines and online e-zines and Huffington Post and Entrepreneur, and I'm on lots of podcasts, and I'm on television, and I'm speaking at conferences. So you can sort of follow what I'm doing and read a lot of the articles that I've written, and you can order the books there, which also links you to Amazon and all the digital platforms and print and hardcover platforms globally. So I'm pretty much everywhere with my books. I'd say the landing place would be jodybmiller.com, and then the courses you'll see are going to start to show up there as well. And you can follow me on Twitter from there, and Facebook from there, and LinkedIn, and all that good stuff.
All the great places, we're connected.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to meet you, Marianne. You seem amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. And hey, I love your message. I mean, I think this is really going to help a lot of people, and I'm glad we're engaging in this discussion now, because I think a lot of people are just stuck in their rut and looking for, feeling like they're stuck when they don't really have to be.
Yeah. And it's not difficult. And the last thing I want to say is it's easy. So follow the easy way. Don't take the hardest thing on first. So if your dream job is to be, like, I thought I'd be the next Barbara Walters. That was like my first dream job. And I put my resume under every door at this big convention in Las Vegas to every news director, and I got a job offer. So, but I ended up not being the next Barbara Walters, and that was fine, but I did get into television, and I did take baby steps, and that was my first career I wanted to do, and I achieved that. So, but I took little baby steps along the way. So don't be hard on yourself and say, I've got to be at, the CEO of that company tomorrow. Just the small steps are okay, and reward yourself along the way, and talk positively to yourself, and it's okay where you're at right now. It's okay. Take the easier path, take it slow, be happy along the path and along the journey.
Oh. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today, Jody.
Thank you, Marianne. I loved it. Thank you so much.
What a joy it's been. We're going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074, 630-881-1074.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. I'm so glad we're spending this time here today. Our next guest, Lisa Barnett, is here today to talk to us about her new book, From Questioning to Knowing. Now, Lisa has devoted her life as a channel to help people connect to their divinity and receive the soul guidance they're searching for, and to heal and transform their lives. She's spent more than 10 years as a religious science certified practitioner where she offers healing prayer treatment. Lisa is also on the board of directors at Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living in California. So let's welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm thrilled to be here with you today.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. And, one of the questions I like asking people that as we start this interview process, it's, so our listeners can learn a little bit more about you, is what got you started on this path?
Well, it's a little bit of a funny story because I started when I was about 3. And, every once in a while you'll probably hear that story from other people who had that epiphany or that awareness when they were very little. And my memory is of like a little toddler, right, 3-year-old, looking at my hands and thinking, I'm trapped in a body again.
Kind of like, oh boy, I'm back.
And I told my mother, I said, I want to go home. I want to go back. I don't really want to do this. I wasn't really excited about the whole process because what I realized was that as a 3-year-old, of course, you're learning to communicate. And as a kind of archetypical communicator, I think I was struggling, right? And so it triggered that memory of not having to use all these words to explain myself. And I just thought, oh, can I be back there where I don't have to talk? I can just, telepath or...
Things are just so much easier on the other side, and then we get here and it's like, okay, what did I sign up for?
Exactly. Like, what a process. I have to learn all these words all over again, right?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, and so, coming in with this awareness at that age, did you have kind of already a knowing what it was that you were going to do, or is that something that was kind of developed over time?
Well, it showed up for me as a little bit more of kind of an expansive awareness or knowingness. And I was very blessed to be living in California in the 60s and 70s, right? That I'm not any older than I am, where there was no esoteric information out there. But in California in the 70s, there was lots of things to read. So as a teenager, I started reading everything I could get my hands on, and the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was, with the Beatles, and Transcendental Meditation was here, and Baba Ram Dass's book, Be Here Now, was kind of new on the bestseller list, and I found one of my favorite books, Journeys Out of the Body, by Robert Monroe, who started the Monroe Institute back then.
Oh,
and
okay.
So, I spent my teenage years from the time I was about 13 reading everything I could get my hands on. And at that point, there was enough to read. And what happened was it was really validating for me. So I went from maybe I'm crazy, my family thinks I'm nuts kind of thinking to, well, there's a lot of other people who believe this too. They just happen to live in the East or, are a little more unusual. So.
Yeah. I'm sure your family is kind of going, okay, where did this all come from?
And it was funny because as an 8-year-old, I made my parents take me to church. I had this very agnostic family. My parents were not religious at all. And they had gone, kind of growing up in the 40s and 50s, they had taken the science route. I think for a lot of those people, science started to replace religion. And so they were more scientifically oriented, then religiously oriented. And then they had this very spiritual child who believed all sorts of esoteric things about past lives and Eastern philosophy and Buddha and the bigger, like all sorts of big picture stuff that I kind of knew in an innate sort of way. So reading about it was very useful. So I really spent my youth on a very spiritual path, and I even minored in philosophy in college. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. That was not particularly the thought, but it was much more about just relearning. Hence the 3-year-old thinking, really, I'm trapped again? I've got to do this all over again.
So, what was I thinking?
It's a lifelong path. There is no doubt. So, for me, I did all of that studying between 13 and 20, and then I had some kind of traumas in my life that sideswiped me, I'm going to say, in a way. My 2 best friends died in well, of course, there are always terrible accidents. In that way. And I just thought, you know what? I don't know what I came to do. I don't know that I care. I'm going to go off and I'm going to travel and have some fun and make some money. And I spent 15 years as a print production director for an advertising agency. So I went kind of down a corporate road, and I literally did just that. I had a good job, made good money, traveled around the world, and had some fun.
Well, that's exciting. Well, it's always interesting what leads us to the path that we are currently on. And so I can understand why you had the inspiration for this book to some degree. What were some of the points that really drove you to write it?
There's always one big point in my world, I have to say. So I started to speak to these beings of light that are Akashic Record keepers. And I'd be happy to share a little bit more what the Akashic Records are. But these guides, these Akashic Record guides that keep my records and guide me on my soul path, said to me, it's time to write another book. I said, oh, okay, what are you writing about?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
so
it's a little
really
different than a lot of people. I'm sorry?
They really kind of were urging you to write your next book.
They are very clear and strong. And so let me just do I don't know about your listeners, but a lot of people have kind of heard the word Akashic Records, but not really sure what that is. Some people say to me, isn't that about your past lives? Or what do I care about that now for, kind of thing. So I love to give a definition, because the way the record keepers explain the Akashic Records is that it is the record of your soul from the time you individuate from source until you return. So everything you've ever been and done is recorded and kept in your Akashic Record. And the reason that we care about it now, that it's a lot more than kind of just a past life story, is that we have gifts and talents. We come to learn and grow spiritually. And every time we decide to come into a body again, we write a soul plan. And in that soul plan is details such as soul contracts with people that you want to spend time with, people you want to support, people you have old karma with you'd like to complete. There are parts about maybe a past life vow that you'd like to clear and release so that you can move forward, and maybe it's be more abundant in your world, in your life. So many of the things that we've actually done in the past come around and around and around again in different lifetimes. So it's not about, have I been a king or a queen or somebody famous, but it's much more about what gifts and talents do I have that I would like to bring forward in this lifetime, whether it's about being a communicator, an author, a spiritual teacher, some sort of, could be a great business person. It could be your own business that you want to create, that your gifts and talents want to show through. I do a lot of work with people who are everything from acupuncturists, therapists, doctors, teachers, yoga instructors, all sorts of different types of work that we have gifts and talents we want to share. So we write these plans as a soul plan, and when you have that information, when you have an idea of your soul plan, it helps with that idea of what's my purpose. A lot of people say, I'm not sure what my purpose is in life, or what do I have a soul purpose, or what did I come to do anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're very complicated, and what I see for people that I work with, I do Akashic Record readings and healings for clients all the time, and what I see very often is that it is the blocks, the unconscious beliefs, the inability to connect to those gifts and talents or to that soul purpose that often kind of holds us back from moving forward in the world. Even if we know we have some gifts, we may think, oh, who am I? What makes me special? Why would anybody care about that? Whereas when we start to see or understand it from in that big picture sort of way, like your expansive soul information, that this is really part of who you are and what you've come to offer to humanity, it gives us a different perspective. So when we can access this kind of soul record, this wisdom, this expansive view of the world, it actually makes it a lot easier for us as humans having this experience to go forward and to step more fully into our own, into our gifts, step more fully into who we are and what we've come to offer the world.
Well, and so in knowing that, like, let's say you are working with somebody or who is a little bit more advanced, and so they know, maybe they're like an energy worker, and they know that they're on their path and they're doing what they need to be doing, but they don't really kind of feel fulfilled. What would the Akashic Records offer someone who's a little bit more in an advanced state? Would that give them just more information or clarity in regards to the path that they're on, or maybe in regards to people they're working with? How else can it be used?
Right. So it can actually be used in quite a few different ways. So I teach people to access their own Akashic Records, and I actually teach a course which I call Akashic Career Mastery, where I teach people to become certified consultants and healers also. So there would be two ways. Say you're an energy healer, which is really where I started with this work. What I found was when I started to access my own Akashic Records, I could clear any fear and block from other lifetimes that were holding me back. And as we know, so many of us as, light workers, as healers, have had traumatic lives in the past. We've been, burned at the stake, or we've been killed for being a witch, or we've been stoned to death or run out of town, right? The Inquisition went on for 500 years. It's a pretty long time. And many of us kind of lay low, or we feel like we're afraid on some level to get big, to be seen, to maybe do more marketing because we're afraid that people are going to think we're crazy. And what I see often in the records is some of that underlying unconscious fear is that not only will people think we're crazy and maybe lock us away for being crazy, they might call us a witch and kill us. And as silly as it may sound on one hand today, that is a painful memory, and that can live in our bodies. So these kinds of fears can block us, and so we can access some of that and heal it, clear it, release that old unconscious pain and trauma. And then we can reclaim some of those gifts and talents we've had from other lives, which can help us to strengthen our healing gifts that we have now that we've already been using, and maybe reclaim some different ones. So maybe I do a reading for somebody and I see not only have they been a shaman in a couple of lifetimes, but they also have some lives in the ancient goddess wisdom temples and have been a wisdom teacher and been a herbalist. And so there may be extra information that you haven't utilized yet that could be very useful for you. So reclaiming a lot of that is very, very useful. And then the other thing I often tell students is that when you start to access your own Akashic Records, you're raising your vibration because you're moving into this divine energy of Source. You're actually elevating your energy into this one mind, into this big collective consciousness, this pure unconditional love. And when we do that every day for ourselves, we're raising our vibration, which helps to really clear and strengthen our energy field, which makes our healing stronger and clearer. So it can be very useful in many, many different ways. Even I have a couple of certified Akashic consultants who've studied through my school, and they will work with, one does numerology, one does nutrition, one actually even makes like organic chocolate and different, and also does kind of a nutritional healing. And many of them open their own Akashic Records and say, how can I best be of service to my clients today? Or, to create some new, food process for, to make, right, to sell. And so there's so much information in the Akashic Records that boosts your work that you're already doing.
Well, and so you touched on it a little bit. How does karma play a role in all of this?
Well, karma is an interesting thing because the way the Akashic Masters explain it is, instead of being the old idea of karma as punishment, you're being punished for something you did wrong, the Akashic Masters talk about it as part of your soul's journey. It's part of the learning and the growth that we all come to experience here on Earth. And so I always say, as crazy as it sounds to us as humans, we choose these challenges to learn and grow because we grow exponentially here on Earth compared to any other planet, plane, or dimension. Mm-hmm. So karma is about learning. And an example could be you might have had a relationship, say, in a past life, and it's incomplete. And the incompleteness is part of what creates the karma. So it can be it could be incomplete because maybe you died in an accident and there's a karmic cycle that wants to be completed. It could be that you deserted your family, say, because you were really miserable and you ran away and, did something else. Or sometimes we actually desert our families, we even desert ourselves through some level of addiction or abandonment. So maybe we abandon our family through alcoholism. So all of these are different ways that people will kind of create karma around a soul contract, a family contract, to maybe be a loving and supportive partner. And so all of these, say you did all three of them in different lifetimes, you would be working through relationships to complete this karma. So you may say in one lifetime, you may say, oh my gosh, you remember I died in that life and we never got to, fulfill that contract to have a supporting relationship. And so you come back and maybe you remarry that person and you have a full and supportive life. And you've actually completed that incomplete lesson. You've completed that karma. So it can be just about an incomplete lesson. It doesn't have to be about something negative. But then imagine there's another part where you abandoned your family. You said, I just don't have, the patience or the temperament or the ability to be a, say, supportive husband and make a living and support this family. I'm just going to go run off and, go jump on a ship and go be
take off, be a nomad.
Right, So there's that family karma that's hanging out there. So you would come back to create some family situation that would be similar, and it might be a challenging situation. Maybe you're living in a country where there's a lot of poverty and there's not a lot of work, and it's really hard to make a living and to support your family, but you stick it out anyway. Maybe you do, 2 or 3 jobs in order to just make ends meet, and you're a kind and loving person anyway. And that completes the learning, because the learning is about love and support. The bottom line is that learning as a human is all about love, unconditional love, support, forgiveness, really all of those emotions, patience, being helpful, helping, gratitude. So those are many of the lessons that are showing up for us to learn and to work through in one way or another. And if we don't get it this time, well, it'll just show up again, and, it'll show up in another lifetime. So what I find is that it's not unusual for clients to come to me and say, I seem to be stuck in some pattern. Maybe it's a karmic pattern that all of my relationships I keep having these, repeating patterns of not ever being able to make this person happy, or to be able to have a fulfilling job, or to be able to support them, whatever, our story is that time. And so it could be numerous relationships in one life, or it could be, each life you have you have that repeating pattern until you learn it and you finish it, and then it's done. So once you break that pattern of staying and being supportive and helping to care for your family, no matter what the world story is, no matter what the challenge is, to still, be there and be supportive and not run away, that completes the karma. That completes the lesson. And then you don't have to do that anymore.
Well, that's always a good thing.
Yes.
Finish that and declare that done. Well, and to tie in your book, From Questioning to Knowing, you have in here, it's actually such a great little resource, and not really little, but it's a great resource because it does have prayers that can move people beyond situations that they are experiencing. And it could be, what I really enjoyed was like you had prayers for happiness and joy and, clearing energy fields. Where did all these come from? Was this something that you got from the Akashic Records? Is it something that was channeled to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it absolutely was. So I've been working in the Akashic Records, really receiving information for 20 plus years, and I had written one book. They had asked me to write one, the Akashic Masters, who are the beings of light that keep my records. We each have our own record keepers. So we have our own beings of light, and I call them really Akashic librarians, because it's kind of easy to imagine your Akashic record as a little library. So you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, and you've got your own personal librarians who help you to sort through the books, who find the relevant information for you in this lifetime, help you to dig up some of those gifts and talents you're looking for. I just had a client today who said, I'd love to reclaim some maybe creativity. I'd like to write a book. Do I have any of that in a past life? And so we ask the Akashic record keepers, these beings of light. And they said, oh, yes, you've done, you've been a published author in this life, you've channeled some books in this life, you've been a scribe in that life, and we can reclaim this information, so we're bringing it present into your energy field now. And so when they asked me to do this, kind of the funny thing is that even kind of almost back before, back in my 30s when my children were small, I had worked as a prayer practitioner with the New Thought movement with the Unity Church and Science of Mind churches. So if you're familiar with Agape with Michael Beckwith or Unity Church, I had been for 10 years a prayer practitioner. So I had done a lot of praying with the congregation there. And so when the Akashic Master said, write another book, and I said, okay, what are we writing? And they said, we're going to do a prayer book. I was kind of surprised. I said, really? I thought it would be more, more different, something else.
Yeah.
And they said, did you forget that you spent 10 years as a prayer practitioner with the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living? And I said, well, honestly, yes, because of course, when your children are small, we get that kind of mommy mind, we have a little forgetful, right? So they said, we will imbue these beautiful prayers that we give you with the Akashic divine vibration of Source, and they will have this healing vibration right imbued into the prayers. And so I said, okay, that sounds great, because they said, we're here to assist humanity in waking up, into, clearing our old beliefs, into letting go a lot of this old karma that no longer serves us. They said, it's time to step forward. And so there's so many, 73 prayers, right? So everything from a prayer to release past life vows. Like I mentioned, many of us have a past life vow of poverty or chastity or obedience from spiritual lives. And so they're useful to let go of those old prayers so we can step into who we are now. And one of my favorites is the prayer to assist in forward motion.
I saw that one. I thought that was actually pretty great. Why don't you explain a little bit about that for our listeners?
The prayers, how they work, you mean, or?
Well, just when people think, okay, the prayer of forward motion, is that for me on my path that I'm able to go ahead and move forward?
Yes, and I would love to do the prayer because I just always, love to share this. People can feel it a little bit, because what we find is that many of us feel just a little stuck. I mean, like I say, work with clients all the time who come to me and they say, I feel stuck. I want to start a new business, but I'm kind of afraid, or I'd like to expand my work or my business, but I just don't know how. I don't know what's up. It's, kind of unconscious. And I think that's one of the reasons I love working in the Akashic Records, is that they bring so many of these unconscious thoughts and beliefs present for us.
Mm-hmm.
So when we learn to access our own records, we can find out, again, because these are some past lives in which you were traumatized, or maybe their childhood unconscious beliefs about the way your parents felt about those rich neighbors. They were just bad people, right? So we've taken on beliefs from other people that say, oh, money's bad, or, just a million different, examples out there. So this prayer just helps us. The way the Akashic Masters wrote them are so beautiful, because it just says, please release the ties that bind me. And let me just, I'll do the whole prayer, because it just helps us to kind of shift our energy. And many people I know are writing to me, people who are reading the book, and they're saying, I do this prayer every day as I'm writing a business plan, as I'm dreaming of what I want to do next, as I'm, working with my clients and wanting to have more clients. So This is the prayer to assist in forward motion.
And all of that. Oh, my goodness. Well, do you know, Lisa, I mean, we could talk for hours. I mean, you're such an inspiration. You've got amazing gifts and talents. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about the work you do, the readings, and any of your upcoming events?
Check out AkashicKnowing.com.
Oh, thank you, Lisa, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
Oh, thank you. It has been a joy. I appreciate you, Marianne.
I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in today. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.